The federal funds rate has gone up 0.25% from 1/4 to 0.5%. This is a special rate among the key players in the American economy, the central bank, and all the top flight lenders who are shareholders in this private organization, which has, as we well know, authority and control over the you might say the means of production through this medium of exchange, which is called the dollar, the paper dollar, also more accurately called the Federal Reserve note, which is printed. There are various printed forms of this currency. Some pieces of paper have 1 on them, some have 20, some have 10, some have 5, some have 50, and probably the most convenient note is the note with 100 written on it 8 times, 4 on the front and 4 on the back, indicating that piece of paper is worth 4 times as much as the equivalent sized piece of paper, also in green ink and special paper and fibers, that has a 1 on it. And so because we know there's a very important difference between these 2 pieces of paper, we can go forward glad that more of these dollars, as they're called, can be produced in the lending economy. However, though we are so excited about this economic growth of new dollars being created through the lending process, there's this slight hitch, and that is today's news. Actually, yesterday's news on the horizon here over Chattanooga and Hamilton County, and that is that the rate has gone up a little bit. Now, that is supposed to suggest several things. That there's growing confidence in the economy, as Grandma Yellen says, and all the commentators agree. And also that if the federal funds rate, the suppressive force of that agreement among the banks, it's suppressive because it keeps interest rates elsewhere down, right? And banks won't pay interest that is deserved by savers who keep their deposits there with the lenders. The rate has gone up, and so it will set back slightly the wild drunken party that has been in progress since the meltdown of 2007, 2008. The Bear Stearns collapse, the Lehman collapse, the great catastrophe that we were warned would destroy the economy. In fact, bring the American economy to its knees if the banking sector were not given billions and billions and billions of dollars of private favors, private agreements, taxpayer money to the tune of, past $100 billion, going to the industry, the only industry about which we know that can create money from nothing. And that is, of course, the banking sector. Any company licensed to create credit, to issue credit, is effectively a money-making machine. And so the money-making machine, if you would want to call it that in shorthand, has been going with such strain, such monumental whirring and bumping and grinding, if you will, for the past 8 years. Why? To save the economy. And that's why the Fed took over in its management of the economy, which it never is not part of its charter. It took over the issuance of credit and the manipulation of the issuance of credit by, as I say, suppressing artificially this rate of interest through the federal funds rate, which is the headline in today's paper, that the Fed has raised this rate to slow down the issuance of credit. Now, if it's not quite clear on how that works, lower interest rates, whether they're naturally low set by the market or artificially low, what happens is that people gain confidence. They think, wow, I can get a loan for 4% and pay it off over 30 years. And man, that's just so cheap. There's no way I can not make the payments on that, right? So I'm going to go ahead and go into debt. And I've got this great project in mind. And I've had friends of mine and people or my consultants are all saying, this is a great project if we can just finance it, right? So the rate is so low and interest is so cheap. And essentially, money is free. That's the shorthand. If money is free, why can't we build another retail outlet on Hickson Pike? Why can't we build another shopping mall? Why can't we borrow billions and billions of dollars for this gigantic corporate merger? in the drug field or in the tech sector, right? All these are all things that are made possible. Why can't we buy back shares for our company, right? To keep the price of those shares higher, we'll buy some back and we'll borrow for it. That's it. We'll borrow the free money, the credit, and buy back shares. We'll merge with other players, and in this process, we are supported by the financial sector and equity houses and the like, and we'll merge, right? We'll create a gigantic combine from the two gigantic combines, which are looking lovingly, ardently across the boardroom table. The executives reaching across there to shake hands on the deal that's going to make national economy even more national and even greater. The great American enterprise sweeping across the world with gigantic behemoths of service, right? Of soap making and clothing, right? These are and tractors. These are all the things that are part of the national economy. And what you have though, if Janet Yellen, Grandma Yellen had not raised the rate of interest just a little bit, you would have had a continuing boom. And so now the boom is. The party is still roaring. The band is playing. People are clinking glasses. One man has just fallen over the end of the table, where in the middle is this giant bowl of spirits. Right? No one really notices that the man is smashed some glasses and rolled off to the side down by the electrical outlet there in the shadows. And no one notices that. There's a loud conversation going on and booming laughter as people are slapping each other's backs and saying, "Oh, so glad to see you. Let's make a deal. Let's buy that strip mall in Chattanooga. Let's build that $28 million hotel in that empty lot downtown in Chattanooga." That's the party. And so what's happened is that Grandma Yellen has come to the door and she said, "Hey." That's all she's done. Maybe one or two people have heard her, and we'll hear her the reverberations in the press. Of her call that she's going to crack down. She's going to get tough on this party, where everybody is borrowing himself to great, phenomenal riches, and she's saying, that can't go on forever. It's not quite natural. It's not quite right. Now, speak of unnatural things. There are unnatural things going on in the bedrooms behind the closed doors down the hallway of that party shop, that party house, and odd, bizarre things are being conceived in the ardor of the debt capitalism. I mean, the one company looking at the other company, one winking at the other and saying, "Come on back. Let's have a little tryst. Let's have a tryst. And we'll form a new combination. In fact, we'll expand markets out to the West Coast. Don't you think that's a great idea? And we can even go into the China market. Have you heard about the China market?" Well, this is the story that's happening, and it matters to you, and it matters to me here in Chattanooga. My name is David Tulis, and I'm delighted that you are giving me a couple of minutes of your time here at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. The analysis is from very sane writers like David Stockman. I'm holding up for my viewer on YouTube a copy of his book, one to which I gave very scrupulous attention in the past few months, and his analysis is overwhelming. Though at the end he has this kind of gratuitous chapter, which he says, "Here's how we can solve the problems." Not very realistic, despite the very gruesome, high-flying details of our country's detachment, or should I say, their country's detachment, their government's detachment from the rule of law and from having a reasonable and reliable medium of exchange, the dollar. The dollar is not a reliable medium of exchange. It is not a store of value, and that's because it's not a real dollar. Of course, a real dollar is a silver coin of some kind, and or a representation, a legal representation of that store of value. I'm holding up for my YouTube viewer $3 I have in my pocket, and I have them. I carry them around so that when I get change, I can always pull out the real coins with the fakes. And often people say, "Wow, what's that?" Some people have never seen a dollar before. They don't know what a dollar is, and so I make a small show. Here's how it sounds. Okay, that's how a dollar sound in one's pocket. So if you ever hear a man past 40 with that sound coming from his pockets, you know that he is a kind of a hard money guy. And that means that he appreciates constitutional coin and currency and maybe making steps even now to defend himself against the pending disaster, because the party is not going to end. And we are wanting you to be prepared. By the way, at 11 o'clock today, just after my show, Duke is going to be here talking about Chattanooga preparedness. It's our show talking about all kinds of things for which to be prepared. The morning show this morning on television had an exclusive, alarming story about how to be prepared when you travel, and it had scenes of people trapped in their cars for days in snow and ice, and coming often to a very bitter decline before they're finally someone finally yanks the door handle open after cracking off the ice and rescuing them. They are just in a deplorable state with their hunger, their urine, and their waste products in the car that has barely had enough crackers to support them for a day, and they've been in there for 3 days. That's the story. And so Chattanooga Preparedness is our show here at 11 o'clock today, sponsored by P5 here in Chattanooga. We are wanting you to think as we think. Let me just throw an opposite at you, right? The wild contrast, and that would be luxurious day spa, Woodhouse Day Spa. And hold on, caller, this is David Tulis, and you're on the air. What's on your mind?
I love what you're talking about. I'm a hard money guy, but for accuracy's sake, the hand has never touched nor the eye ever seen a dollar. It's a weight, because even the measurement, 371 and a quarter grains of fine silver. It's like an ounce of orange juice. You can't touch an ounce. It's a way to measure.
So an ounce is always
actually
in
what
something.
you were holding in your hand was a dollar quantity of silver. It's a weight.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Okay.
I was holding. Let me make the caller is pointing out a correction, and I'm very sorry that I've offended his constitutional sensibilities. I was not holding a dollar in my hand with those Morgans. I was holding a dollar weight of silver. Okay, that's the correct measure. And I've been corrected on something else. I was talking yesterday on the phone with a man, a very fine Christian man, who's being oppressed in Lawrence County, Tennessee, facing a trial on Tuesday. And he said, you shouldn't really talk about constitutional rights. You should talk about constitutionally protected rights. And I immediately saw what he meant, because I sometimes refer to constitutional rights as a shorthand, but it's really wrong, because it implies that the rights protected are in the Constitution. Well, no, the rights pre-exist the Constitution. They pre-exist the state. And one could argue that they go back to Adam and Eve, and every man has these rights. It's just that sometimes he can live them out and prosper in them, and having them and exercise them. And at other times he can't, because they're no one understands them, no one recognizes them, or the king or the emperor or the bailiff, the administrator, doesn't recognize them, and so that person at that point is enslaved by some kind of machinery, some kind of administrative or authoritarian machinery. But a constitutionally protected right is the one in view there. In other words, the right that comes from God. A constitutional right is, in fact, one is Arthur J. Hirsch, who is a musician and a restorer of church parking lots, says is one that you can negotiate away. And those are the rights I think that most of us have negotiated away, though one could argue we still have organic rights that are protected, constitutionally protected. So a constitutional right is one that you can waive and barter away in commerce, right? You enter into commerce as you do that. And the other one is a constitutionally protected right, suggesting it's one that is outside of the Constitution, but is protected by the Constitution. And that's the one that you before God, one would dare not give away by petty bickering and bartering, as we do whenever we go to the Department of Safety and Homeland Security to waive our right to travel by car. Woodhouse Day Spa is offering is in a 12 days of Christmas giveaway. And to take advantage of it on behalf of your sweetheart, go to the Facebook page of Woodhouse Day Spa. For every $100 gift card or higher, you get a $15 bonus gift card. For every $200 gift card, the special is a $25 bonus gift card. And if you do a $300 gift card for a luxurious, refreshing, renewing stay at that spa at Warehouse Row, you get a luxurious throw. It's a virginal white throw. Throw is kind of a blanket. It's kind of decorative, but very useful as well. Chattanooga.woodhousespas.com. That's Chattanooga.woodhousespas.com. Guys, I know, my listener, I know you're not likely to go to a spa, but you might. Now, this is for your beloved, okay? You think about her and favor her. Well, with the creation of money, the creation of bank non-referential bank debt circulating as money, that would be the paper dollar. Governments around the world have all combined against their own people, and the Federal Reserve is part of that combination, you might say, against Chattanooga, against Hamilton County, against even the state of Tennessee, as these national governments consume their economies lock, stock, and barrel. And that not only has the Soviet Union done that, or did the Soviet Union do that from 1918 to 74, was it 75? Every national government has done that since. And what we have to see is that we are we are subjected to a national modern behemoth that swallows up the economy, and so the slight adjustment of interest rates is simply a very slight recognition that this artifice of credit, which creates consumption, right? Credit creates consumption, which creates the modern man. It may even have influenced you in how you view the world, how you view your family, how you find affirmation in your life. That this is a point made by Charles U. Smith in his great little book called Resistance, Revolution, Liberation, A Model for Positive Change. He's a free market writer and somewhat of an economist. He has very detailed economic analyses almost every day at of2minds.com, and I highly, highly prize his work. I do want to recommend him. It's not very long. It's a book that you should get. It's 223 pages. A book you should get. What the modern consumption economy creates among people who are presented it, right, who are presented with it by media, is a kind of a culture of defeat. It's social defeat. And what he means by that in discussing it is that your livelihood, your excitement, your joy, your person somehow is tied with your purchases of name brand goods, your purchases of things that are seen by other people. You don't have, as he sees it, your own life, your own personal life that's given by God, that's given by your relationships, that's given by your reading, right? A man is his reading. And so your whole outlook is somehow shaded by your commerce. And that commerce, of course, is in debt, in borrowing for it. You always have that credit card handy. You never pay cash. That if that's you are part of this whole credit economy. Owned by the government and stimulated artificially by government and its agent, its banker, if you will, the central bank, led by that very charming gray-haired figure, Grandma Yellen. And how do you get away from that? Well, there has to be local economy. He makes a tremendous argument for how it is that the relationships in local economy, the obligations in local economy, let's say community relationships, neighbor relationships, that there is where your real identity is found. That would be in commitments to your old parents, right? In commitments to helping a neighbor, in giving social capital to a person of inferior status than you. And I often refer to you, my man, my listener, who knows about your neighbor, the woman with the 3 children, who's got 2.5 jobs or 1.5 jobs, and whose car hasn't had an oil change in 45,000 miles, right? And it smokes. That person, your care for her is part of local economy. Your care for her, I would say, is part of the Christian theory of life, even. And in that economy, in that nexus of relationships, you don't have social defeat. You have real you have a sustainable model for the future for yourself, involving other people in your business, right? In your little business. And we're going to talk with a man named Ryan McReynolds about one way of doing that. He's got some tremendous helps that make it possible for you almost without any capital at all to start a business. And this is very important because grandma yelling national economy, the debt economy consumed by government, it has no view for you. It does not care for you. You just have to borrow and buy, borrow and buy, borrow and buy, and you're going to be better off. Local economy makes a different argument, don't you think? I think we should love our neighbors and buy local, shop local, have a prejudice like I do, that somehow Chattanooga is the center of the world, Cleveland is the center of the world, and we are going to help each other and get through this great crisis ahead.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Expect a wet start to your Thursday with a few early morning showers, then drier for the afternoon. Not as warm, highs upper 50s. Tonight, lows getting colder into the lower 30s. For Friday, a breezy, chilly day, even with sunshine, highs only upper 40s with more sunny and cool weather for the weekend. Right now at Kohl's, take an extra 20% off with your savings pass. Plus, everyone gets $10 Kohl's cash for every $50 spent. Kohl's, some exclusions apply. See store or Kohl's.com for more. And I'm S'mores Gene 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Orr on AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240. CBS Radio News brought to you by Kubota. You can count on Kubota to help you get the toughest jobs done with ease, comfort, and efficiency. Whether you need a compact tractor, zero-turn mower, or diesel utility vehicle, let Kubota help you get your work done. Find your local Kubota dealer at TennesseeKubotaDealers.com.
At Kubota, there's only one thing we're selling. Great tractors.
Lay your burdens down at the Woodhouse. Leave all your worries at the door. Just take some time. We're transforming lives.
Happy holidays
At the Woodhouse.
from the Woodhouse Day Spa. Holiday gift cards available at Chattanooga.woodhousespas.com.
You have an event coming up for the holidays, or maybe it is your daughter's wedding, or maybe just a church or office party, then you need to select Choo Choo Barbecue. That's correct, Choo Choo Barbecue. Whether you like pork, chicken, or beef, oh yes, Choo Choo Barbecue with their savory rub flavor. Oh my goodness, it's making me hungry right now. You add in their delicious smoked aroma, and you have set the table for a perfect meal with Choo Choo Barbecue. That's right, Choo Choo Barbecue. Why don't you give them a call right now? 423-843-9554. That's 843-9554. Call 423-843-9554. Choo Choo Barbecue. You know where it's located, off of Hickson Pike, right there at the Valley Brook area. Don't kid yourself. Your stomach is already on the way.
While politicians debate climate change and taking our guns, they leave America vulnerable to disaster. You need to act now to keep your family safe and prepared. Do you have an emergency plan? Do you have long-term storage food? Do you have the skills and mindset to survive a disaster? If not, what are you waiting for? Call P5 Preparedness right now, 423-602-2175. Do you honestly think the government is going to help you? If you do, you are wrong, dead wrong. Don't get caught unprepared. Let the experts at P5 Preparedness get you ready for any emergency or disaster situation. Today, we offer a wide range of classes for the beginner on how to prepare, as well as the expert prepper. We stock a wide range of supplies, including long-term storage food, water filtration, outdoor gear, tactical gear, and plate carriers. P5 Preparedness, East Brainerd Road between I-75 and Gun Barrel Road. You will see the Army Deuce and a Half truck, 423-602-2175, 1309 Panorama Drive, Chattanooga. P5Preparedness.com.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Fox News Radio, I'm Lillian Wu. Some protests, but mostly calm in Baltimore overnight after a hung jury in the trial of William Porter, the first officer charged in Freddie Gray's death.
The judge will hold a meeting in his chambers today to discuss setting a new trial date. The panel spent 3 days deliberating manslaughter, misconduct, and other charges that could have sent Porter to prison for 25 years, but could not reach a unanimous decision.
Fox Radio's Rachel Sutherland. 2 people have been killed in Oklahoma, other vehicles hit by a man driving down an interstate, firing a gun. And due in court today, a friend of the San Bernardino killers, Enrique Marquez, allegedly bought 2 automatic weapons 3 years ago, gave them to Saeed Farouk. Some of those same guns used to kill people in Southern California, where the president's heading Friday.
To visit privately with the families of the victims.
White House spokesman Josh Earnest. Fox News, we report. You decide.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240. Live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's Nooganomics with David Tulis.
Story on TV3 telling us about a year-long drug operation sending 16 people to jail in Marion County, 16 men and women in connection with either distributing or manufacturing a controlled substance. Wednesday, they were part of an investigation led by Marion County and its Sheriff's Department narcotics unit. We are always fighting the drug problem, Ronnie Bo Burnett says. People call me, and it's surprising how just one drug house can ruin a neighborhood. They say nothing is being done about it. But I tell people, there are things being done behind the scenes and that you don't see. And today is the result of that. So there were undercover officers going in trying to find out who's who and what's what and what the supply route is and the means of payment. We have a meth problem. Marijuana is always a problem. And now we've got a pill problem. And he gave TV3, thanks to Beth Berger's articulate ways of dealing with police officers. She's the news producer, I believe her title is. And TV3 got permission to follow closely and make a good story. It's a massive show of force, you might say, against one part of local economy, the local economy of Marion County that is underground, against statute, against the rule, the morality, the moral system laid down by Congress and the General Assembly about what kind of narcotics, what kind of opiates are not allowed and are in fact criminal to possess. My name is David Tulis. I do thank you for giving us a couple of minutes of your time here at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. We're on YouTube, and you can see that I'm wearing a shirt here the second day, but not the second day in a row. I'm a big boy. I don't wear out things like that. I'm wearing my bow tie and my favorite brown jacket that goes with everything I've got and is getting absolutely worn out. My wife Jeanette, I think, has sewn the pockets inside at least once. And we're brought to you in a very heady way by One Stop Package, the liquor, wine, and beer store in Saudi Daisy. This store is part of the Sunrise Market on Dayton Pike, just south of Dahlia's. And you can get your gas, your bread, your smokes in one outlet there, and just walk down the little sidewalk past the new gasoline pumps to One Stop Package. There's a 10% off offer on any case of wine. So it's got the best prices. A new outfit, right? This is new in the spirits field in Chattanooga, and there's a huge selection. It's just a huge selection for you at very competitive prices. We're brought to you also, speaking of Saudi Daisy, by Wimpy's Restaurant. It's the gathering place. It's got the side lot meat broiler and the basic meat in threes, right? You come up from Hickson to eat there. It's a restaurant just opposite the City Hall Annex, where the locals come sit at the great table in the middle there with their billed caps and hash out the politics of the town. It's a real Southern treat. Meat and eggs at dawn or omelets at noon. You got soup, sandwiches, salads, and of course the broiler fare also great. Drive a hungry soul wild if you go out to Wimpy's, and David or his dad David have some meat going in the broiler under the shed there, which they watch very carefully at Wimpy's. Worth the ride to Saudi Daisy, deeply, deeply southern. That's Wimpy's in South Saudi Daisy. That's where important people go, right? Important people, school board members and others, right, go to Wimpy's, and you'll enjoy your meal there, and maybe meet people, right? Meet real Americans there at Wimpy's. The story about Mohammed Abdulazeez, I think, is interesting. He was inspired, we're told, by FBI Chief Comey in a presentation yesterday. Kind of an offhand comments that he was making at a presentation, that Mohammed Abdulazeez was following terrorist organization propaganda from overseas, and that is what so-called radicalized him and brought him to kill five men, military men here in Chattanooga about 5 months ago and a day. This presentation was exactly 5 months from the July 16 attack, and he says he goes on to say that this language of his announcement is important because the law that governs the Purple Hearts, the federal military honor, specifies that service secretaries can award the decoration in stateside incidents when the attacker was in contact with, and the word "and" inspired by foreign terror organizations. And so that has been the cause of this event. It was somewhat kept in kind of a mystery, and we here in the press and other journalists are looking askance at the FBI's kind of mumbling about this event here. This determination, he says, allows the Department of Navy to move forward immediately with the award of Purple Heart to the families of the 5 heroes who were victims of the terrorist attack, as well as to the surviving hero. And there's also a quote in the story that I'm looking at from Chattanooga.com from Navy Secretary Ray Mabus. So you can check out Chattanooga.com to find out more about that. It's the top story in the print edition of the Chattanooga Time-Free Press today. But I did not see in our local paper a story which I think is worth mentioning, partly because it tells about a larger story, and that is the militarization of police. Here I am, David Tulis, your host at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, arguing in the contrary direction. I'm arguing in a direction against the direction of the trend. The trend is toward militarization of police. We've been in decades for militarization of the economy. It happened under President Roosevelt. The gleanings of it were evident along the edges there in the Lincoln administration with the Great War on the South. That, of course, was an enormous reach by the federal power into the states and against the people of the states, shedding of its own necessity, shedding the blood of tens of thousands of South Carolinians, Tennesseans, North Carolinians, Georgians, Alabamans, all for the purpose of union, or as we are taught today, the rescue of the slaves. That was slavery was not the cause of the issue. Was not the issue of the war. That was not why the war was fought at all. I would say at all, somewhat timorously, because their slaves did figure into it. But Lincoln didn't care about the slaves. He was as racist as any Southerner, and thought denigratingly of blacks as inferiors, and that he was thinking those thoughts on his deathbed, or maybe just before he entered his deathbed after the Ford Theater, or just before the Ford Theater shooting. The story that I'm trying to get to, if I can just get my tongue out of the way, is that of the Ottawa Motel 8 confrontation, and that is you can read about it based on published information at Nooganomics.com. By the way, I'm the editor of Nooganomics.com. Nooganomics.com, the website for the Man Who Matters. Now, I know you, my listener, you're the man who matters here. There's another man who matters there. It's a different group mostly, but the man who matters there reads Nooganomics.com and sees things that he's not going to see elsewhere in the way of analysis and commentaries. I did myself this morning in God's providence, I wrote 2 stories. One, a kind of a discussion about a story about a man in Middle Tennessee who's being hounded by the state for the exercise of his constitutional liberties. And then this one, the headline is SWAT creates war zone at motel as man refuses to unlock door. And that's the story. If you don't read the story, the headline says kind of what the story is about. And it's based on reports from TV3, TV12, and the Chattanoogan. And so there's not original reporting there, but there's enough, I think, in what's officially what's given by people who are on the scene, right? The TV reporters, and John Wilson at Chattanooga.com to get a fair idea of what happened. But the story is of a crew from South Carolina, including Josh, who was one of them. And there was a kind of a business dispute arose and the room in which he was. And maybe the crew was cutting back on one room. They were going to pile up into other rooms and save a room, maybe. But anyway, the room he was in was kind of off limits. It was being shut down, and he was invited to go to another one. These are men who are working at the Little Debbie plant and were here from South Carolina, staying at Super 8 Motel in Ottawa. Well, he wouldn't come out, and he was having an emotional problem. He was angry. He was upset. He was confused. Perhaps we don't know the details of his emotional and spiritual state. But what happened was the hotel employee called police. There are probably 1,000 reasons to not call police on many things, right? Well, let me back up. There are probably a half a dozen reasons to not call police when you may have 2 or 3 reasons to call police, right? Listen to the reasoning that says don't call, right? Don't call. Work out this problem here. It's not a SWAT situation, which is what happened, right? It became a SWAT situation. There's a man who won't unlock the door, which of course means he's barricaded, right? And when you have someone who's barricaded, what is the next word that comes to mind? SWAT. That's right. And that's what happened. The Chattanooga Police Department and the Sheriff's Department show up in force. It becomes a war zone there at that I-75 interchange that the police blocked off the road for a time. I guess at the moment when they were having the assault on this unarmed man not reported to be armed, though it was thought he might have a knife of some kind. Okay, well, he might have a knife of some. Most men have knives in some form or other, especially if you're a construction worker, right? You're going to have some means of self-defense. Well, anyway, the story is of escalation. Escalation, 20 police vehicles, according to Chattanooga.com, including the county's armored car, and dozens of officers, including 2 with I think sniper rifles, who were ready to take the man out through the window. They were on the other side of the L construction of that establishment. So there were 15 officers of the county's paramilitary unit, the SWAT, and they were hanging around the Waffle House, and negotiations are going into the first hour, into the second hour, and into the third hour. And so something has to be done. We've got to take steps. We can't let this go on, right? Well, at some point in these proceedings, a shell casing was found in this parking lot. That's a clue. That's a clue. There may be a weapon here, and though this man is in his Josh is in the apartment by himself, and he's not threatening anybody, he's not killed anybody, he's not hurt anybody, he's not even threatening to kill the most important in his life, and that's himself. He's not threatening to do that either. Well, police at 4:20 p.m. fire tear gas through the window and assault the room with a battering ram, push open, throw back the furniture that he had pushed against the door, and arrested their man, 37-year-old. He emerges shirtless with torn blue jeans. One report says his wrists in handcuffs. And here's the charge, right? It's a disorderly conduct charge and maybe vandalism. It could be vandalism caused by the exploding grenade, right? Because that grenade of tear gas is going to make a very foul odor on the mattress and the carpeting, and maybe a kind of vandalism that you could say indirectly is responsible for, right? Since he had been there and he was keeping that door locked and not letting anybody in, and he hadn't paid for it, right? That's the thing. He hadn't paid for it. what you have here, my good listener, is really a tort. Okay, it's a business dispute. It's something that could have been handled by the cop on the beat who hears about this and checks in and says, okay, well, get back with me in an hour if you haven't straightened it out, to the manager of the restaurant. And then he goes on his rounds, maybe does some traffic and, checks on people, looks under a bridge for a familiar homeless person, right, whom he can lecture, and come back in an hour and see how things are going. That's how it could have been handled, right? Because it's just a business difference, right? If the man doesn't pay for his room and, absconds, okay, well, he's got his partners are there. They can pay for the room. It's not a crisis. It's not a crisis. And yet we finally tactically deployed, says the police official. You go to TV 12 or go to Nooganomics.com and you can watch TV 12's story about this incident. And we finally deployed tactical and was able, that's what it says, and was able to take him into custody. Okay. Let me just ask you, is this proportionate? Is there somehow a disproportion in a man who won't unlock the door and the arrival of a military unit with machine guns and shotguns and gas, sniper rifles, an armored car, no less? The man doesn't have a bazooka. He doesn't even have a pistol. And here we have, it's almost, I think it might be almost laughable. I'm not sure that I'm willing to laugh here. I'm going to leave that to you, my listener, to decide if it's something that's laughably disproportionate. And is it a problem? Are we having this a lot lately? Are we having SWAT for minor offenses, which in fact are private torts? If there's a wrong, it's to be handled by this man and management, or this man's colleagues who are subcontractors or contractors, and maybe even their business, but perhaps not the business for which they work as laborers and skilled craftsmen, but themselves individually. Certainly something can be settled. Is this a good thing for Motel 8? Does Motel 8 want to call the police for everything which is just a matter of dispute? Yeah, you can have a dispute and it not become a crisis. It does not become a battle zone. Why would the manager of Hotel 8 allow the police to be called for this little matter, this tiny little matter? Don't we have local economy to solve things like that? Don't we have the dad? The dad was not allowed to go in. A coworker quoted by, I think, TV3, not allowed to go in and talk to his colleague. Why? Well, he may hurt you. Well, why do we think that? Why do we think like policemen, that everyone is out to kill you? Everyone is out to injure you. The dad, not allowed to go in. The coworker who seems to know this Josh fairly well, not allowed to go in. What is that about? Why can't we have personal negotiations? Why is that not possible? Well, I think in a way, these things happen because people don't believe in local economy. Local economy is when you deal with things in person, and you like a salesman, right? A salesman knows that he can't do email to sell usually, and at phone calls, he knows that he can get a no quicker than he can hang up on a phone call. He doesn't make sales calls by phone. He makes sales calls in person. So local economy has the idea of selling personally, right? Having a relationship, making an impression of your liability, your person, your manner of speech. All of these things, I would think, are in your favor, and even in favor of gruff workmen who are going to do some projects at the Little Debbie plant. Even a man who doesn't have good grammar can settle a dispute. Why do we resort to force when we really should resort to local economy and free market? The local economy and free market argument says voluntary things are cheaper, right? Voluntary things are more gracious. They are less disruptive. They bear less cost. There's less likelihood for ruin, for injury. Could this man, Josh, have been shot? Could he have been shot because he kept the door locked and threw a bed in front of it? Because he maybe uprooted a bed. Those beds are bolted down. So maybe he used one of his crowbars in his toolkit to unbolt the bed in the hotel room at Motel 8 and shove it against the door. That's very, very serious, right? That is so serious, we've got to bring out the armored car. I wonder about that. And I'm thinking that we're not loving our neighbors. And I'm thinking along with you that the police department needs needs to go? Does it need to go? Well, okay, I know that's kind of a hard thing to think about, but I think that we need to consider the post-police life in Chattanooga. And I want you to think with me, not because we have any animus against Fred Fletcher or any particular officer or any of the bulky body of administrators in the police department or any of the hangers-on. No, I think we need to consider technology, and we need to consider the virtue of the common man. That would be you, right? The man who wears his own weapon, the man who owns a good rifle at home, who loves on his wife, who has a child or two, thinking of more, right? A man who's got a view of the future, who wants to increase our population, who wants to increase the capital base in Chattanooga. And that's going to be increased by not the national economy, not the credit economy that Grandma Yellen is trying to restrain now with her quarter-point interest rate rise. The national economy is doomed. It's doomed because it's too big, it's unworkable, and it's got thousands of wealthy investors and schemers and planners and developers and innovators and connected people getting away with free money and making a gigantic house of cards, which is the national economy. And local economy is different. Local economy, in the end, is not about debt. It's about assets. And you, my listener, you're an asset, right? And you need to understand that you're worth investing in. Divest national and invest local. The police department has a picture quite different from local economy. It has an idea that if there's a dispute in which voices are raised, you have to have the police come in. If there's an argument where men are shouting at each other, though they're not swinging at each other, that's a melee. Well, no, it's not. It really isn't. And I know you're a Southerner, and I am too. And we don't like to argue about things, but I think arguments are good. I think that people can express themselves without being reported on to the police. That people can have a dispute over a bill and not have the police come. I really think that we can iron things out ourselves. I think that we're big boys. You, my listener, and me. We are big boys. And a big boy will think local. He'll think of Choo Choo Barbecue here in Hickson. He will think, I've got an event coming up at my office, and I'm going to cater my event, and I'm not going to a chain store to cater it. I'm not going to a big chain drugstore to cater it or to a big food chain. No, I'm going to go to a local outlet. And Choo Choo Barbecue is the outlet. It is the outlet for catering your Christmas event, your New Year's event, with the best sandwiches on the earth. They are pork, chicken, or beef. They are the best barbecue in the world. And I've eaten there. Take it from me. The number is 870-7894, 780-7894. Whether it's pork, chicken, or beef, barbecue is the name, and Choo Choo is the game at this fine restaurant. It's right near Valley Brook on Hickson Pike. Do go in there, and remember, loving your neighbor and buying local is our theme. That's how we. And you know what? Here, step 2: pay cash. Cash keeps out the national economy to a degree from that transaction. That way, Trip Bettis doesn't have to pay the national economy credit tax, which is anywhere from 2 to 5%. Why should he have to pay that? If you care about local economy, you need to pay cash. You, my listener, get a few $100s out of the bank today, and in 50s and 20s, and pay cash. Your local shop will love you. Your local shop will say, well, thank you so much. This is not a transaction for which there's a trail of notes and papers and digits after, right? There's not that flagellum following the spermatozoa of the transaction. That's what happens in a credit economy transaction. There's this long record. Pay cash and be done with it, and save that local provider the tax. My name is David Tulis. I do think you should do your printing at Advantage Printing. That's where I get my work done. Alan is a great guy. He's a radio guy and is probably the best printer in Chattanooga. And that's Advantage Printing near Belvoir Light on Brainerd Road, just past the Bilo. In-house design, mailing services, digital printing, large, gigantic format projects as well. Alan Jones at Advantage Printing, 629-1800, 629-1800. Thanks for your time.
Expect a wet start to your Thursday with a few early morning showers, then drier for the afternoon. Not as warm, highs upper 50s. Tonight, Lows getting colder into the lower 30s. For Friday, a breezy, chilly day, even with sunshine highs only upper 40s, with more sunny and cool weather for the weekend. Right now at Kohl's, take an extra 20% off with your savings pass. Plus, everyone gets $10 Kohl's cash for every $50 spent. Kohl's, some exclusions apply. See store or Kohl's.com for more. And I'm S'mores Gene 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Orr. On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240. Rick Davis Total Store Sale. Gold, silver, bracelets, rings, diamonds. Rick Davis pays you cash personally. Cash, 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 and more cash. Rick Davis has got the cash and incredible deals at 50, 60, and 70% off Rick Davis on Brainerd Road near Eastgate Town Center.
Do I sound like a guy who loves to eat? Yeah. You too? Guess what? I cook the meanest hamburger in Hickson at my little restaurant, Armando's at Chester Frost Park. That's it. Right by the entrance, Chester Frost Park on Hickson Pike. I'd like you to come by and let me cook you dinner too. Bring your family, kids, friends. Lunch for common folk, just not the common lunch. Yeah, we're perfect for lunch. And dinner too. Meat guy? Yeah. Potatoes? Yeah. Catfish, BLTs, pecan pie, hot cup of coffee or ice cold sweet tea. Armando's, that's us. Go on by 11 to 9, Monday through Saturday, right outside the entrance, Chester Frost Park, across from Thrasher.
I love my Flex loan from Advance Financial. I needed cash, I needed it fast, and I didn't want to get a payday loan. My Flex loan from Advance Financial is not a payday loan. It's a line of credit. I only pay for the cash I need, and I only pay for the time that I need it. There's no lump sum payment. My Advance Financial Flex loan is an open line of credit, and I can get cash anytime I need it.
Visit one of our 24/7 locations and get the cash you need today. Advance Financial. Welcome.
Are you tired of working in corporate America, or have you recently lost your job and would like to consider owning your own business? If you are, please call me, as I can help you look at franchises or business opportunities that fit you, the economy that we're in, and the type of businesses that are right in the greater Chattanooga area. After I help my clients find the right opportunity, I also help them find the best way to finance the business, including paying yourself through the startup phase. If you would like to learn more about opportunities that may be right for you, please call me for a free assessment. My name is Bruce Krebs at the Entrepreneur Source. Phone number is 423-875-5621.
Hot News Talk 1240.
A view like no other awaits you for lunch or dinner at Ari's in Saudi Daisy. Ari's Harbor Light is the restaurant over the glittering waters of Lake Chickamauga there at the marina. It serves you a quiet dinner for two, a solitary glass after a day of toil, a delicious family feast, pleasing even the pickiest 8-year-old niece here for the holidays. Come today. Ari's Harbor Lights restaurant lays a generous smorgasbord of seafood, Greek specialties, Italian pasta. Try Ari's at 11 for lunch. Ari's, 9700 Hickson Pike, Saudi Daisy, 843-2800. Open Tuesday through Sunday. A great place for a holiday party. Happy hour, 3 to 7. Ari's.
Don't be a victim. Arm yourself today at Carter Shooting Supply and Indoor Range, offering the finest selection of personal firearms and ammo, especially the hard-to-find ammunition. You know the police can't protect you. They show up after the crime is committed. The ability to protect yourself, your family, and when called upon, your nation is enshrined in the United States Constitution. Shop the largest selection of shooting supplies on their online store, CarterShootingSupply.com. Carter Shooting Supply and Indoor Range, the largest and cheapest selection in Chattanooga. 6210 Highway 58, Harrison. Call 344-1099. That's 344-1099. Keep your family safe this Christmas by buying them a certificate for Carter Shooting Supply Tennessee Handgun Permit Class. And stop by today to consult one of their qualified experts. They'll fit you perfectly to the firearm that meets your needs. Call 344-1099. You'll always find the widest selection of new and used firearms at Carter Shooting Supply and Indoor Range. 6210 Highway 58, Harrison. Call 344-1099.
I'm blowing everything up. We're starting over. I'm doing a new show. I want guys who push it to the middle of the table and go over the top. Take a risk, fail miserably. I'm right, and I'm not wrong, and I'll never back down. Conflict works. Allow it.
It's The Herd with Colin Cowherd. Right here and everywhere. Noon Eastern.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
WSDT Saudi Daisy. Chattanooga.
CBS News. I'm Dave Barrett. Under arrest today in New York City, Martin Shkreli, an entrepreneur in prescription drug circles. Here's CBS's DeMarco Morgan.
He was arrested this morning at his home here in Manhattan without incident. That's according to some of our sources close to CBS News. Now, Shkreli, the CEO of Turing Pharmaceuticals, is accused of illegally taking stock from a biotech company he founded to pay off debts from unrelated business transactions.
And he'd earlier been criticized for raising the price on Daraprim, the life-saving drug. It went from about $13 a dose to $750 per pill. Overseas, the defense secretary says
this is a mistake, and entirely my mistake.
Ash Carter speaking to correspondent Charlie D'Agata in Erbil, Iraq. And Carter says in the first couple of months in his cabinet post, he used personal email to conduct some government business.
What I did that I shouldn't have been doing until a few months ago was occasionally use my iPhone to send administrative messages, no classified information, and backed up as records to my immediate staff. And even that I shouldn't have been doing. And when I realized that, I stopped.
Secretary Carter says he has to hold himself to strict standards of cybersecurity. Back home, drunkenness and road rage may be the combination in central Oklahoma. A driver in a pickup was on Interstate 40 last night, and the sheriff of Custer County says the suspect began randomly firing at cars. 2 people were killed, and eventually the suspects surrendered. School threats today in Big D. Mayor Mike Rawlings.
Obviously, someone's trying to scare Dallas, and that's not going to work.
The schools were swept by security. Nothing found. Other threats similar to the one that L.A. and New York got earlier this week were received by school districts today in Houston, Fort Lauderdale, and Miami. Baltimore streets were calm last night following the mistrial linked to the death of Freddie Gray. CBS's Chris Van Cleve says Officer William Porter's fate remains unresolved.
Lawyers are meeting in an administrative hearing with the judge in private in his chambers sometime today. And at this point, prosecutors have not said if they plan to retry Porter or not.
Enrique Marquez will likely face a judge today in San Bernardino, California. CBS's Steve Futterman.
The charges, which are expected to be announced today, could include material support for terrorism. Enrique Marquez bought the 2 assault rifles used in the attack. He reportedly told authorities he bought them for Sayed Farouk so Farouk could avoid a government background check. Marquez, who used to live next door to Farouk, also told investigators of plans for an earlier attack in 2012. Steve Futterman, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Another drop in first-time jobless claims. They are down to 271,000 from last week after this drop of 11,000. Wall Street, the Dow is down 37 points. This is CBS News.
Are you paying too much for term life insurance? I'm Jim O'Connor, independent life insurance agent specializing in term life insurance. There's been a price war between the major life insurance companies. If you've had your term life policy more than 2 years, you may be paying too much. For example, a male age 45, non-tobacco user issue preferred best, $1 million of coverage is only $56 a month guaranteed level for 10 years. Or a male age 50, non-tobacco user issue preferred best, $500,000 of coverage is only $91 a month guaranteed level for 20 years. The life insurance industry is going through exciting changes. Make sure you're not paying too much for your term insurance. For new or replacement term life insurance, call for a free quote. 800-799-0903. That's 800-799-0903. Don't pay too much for your term insurance. Call 800-799-0903 or visit my website at term22.com. That's term22.com. Rates based on standard underwriting and may vary by state.
Aspiring rock guitarists may start off with this riff. It's from Smoke on the Water. Deep Purple did it. Now that band's going into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Also elected to rock immortality.
Mama's all right, Daddy's all right, we just did a little weird.
Cheap Trick featuring the bow-tied Rick Nielsen. And then there's this guy.
Some people call me the Space Cowboy.
That's Steve Miller.
Yeah. Some call me the Gangster of Love.
He'll be inducted next April, along with NWA.
You rather see me in the pen than me and Lorenzo rolling in a benzo.
And these numbers added up.
25 or 6 to 4.
Chicago's also going into the Rock Hall next spring. Dave Barrett, CBS News. Are you paying too much for term life?
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240. Live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's Nooganomics with David Tulis.
We are the dissenting media platform in Chattanooga, and I'm the editor of Nooganomics.com, the site that covers local economy and the free market, and our chief sponsor here of this segment at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. We think that the main argument, the arguments of Janet Yellen, Grandma Yellen, and her pals is mistaken. She says that far is better than near, that big is better than small, and that complex is better than simple. And in the footnotes, which she straggles after her presumptions, she says that corporate is better than personal, and that abstract is better than physical. And yet, you, my listener, I think you've grown a little tired of this line of thinking, and you want to come back to local economy. You kind of want to come home to Chattanooga and to Hamilton County. And even if you, my listener, happen to be the trucker driving a double trailer down to Fort Lauderdale, you know that everything I say is not trademarked and perfectly applicable to you in your situation, in your faraway place. But we are here Nooga-centric and trying to convey a general argument of the marketplace, and that is local economy and the free market, personal economics, and one way of increasing your personal reach in local economy and finding means of gaining traction in local economy is by the app, the application that is lodged on your smartphone, the new platform that is revolutionizing business and making, though it is a global part of a global system, if you will, the eternal, the non here, the I above all places, the placeless place of the internet and the network, it can be greatly useful here in local economy to make your dealings with your local customers spontaneous, quick, rational, and to help explain how that works and what he is doing in this field to serve you. My small business listener is Ryan McReynolds. He runs, he's a founder and CEO of RSM Apps, based here in Chattanooga, that has a sales staff of about 13. It's got 13 people in corporate. Development staff. He's got his CPO in Chicago, and folks spread all around the country providing a service. And we want to hear about how it can help you, especially if you, my listener, are starting off in business. Ryan, what is the problem that the small business owner faces? Tell us how uncertainty and you might say the digital world stacks up against him. How does he see his problems, and what are they? And then when we get through that list, what is it that you do to provide relief?
Absolutely. We have experienced several different things within the technology era that we're in. First is trying to overcome the objection of cost. Everyone thinks that engaging in technology is extremely expensive. And although it can be, depending upon what you're going for, there are a lot of things that can be done extremely affordably and very economically. The challenges that they're facing are startup costs. You're facing looking at trying to figure out how to take your business, get your customers engaged, which will obviously equal either return of investment or retention for those types of customers. For example, we can look at, the bar owner who is trying to sell, beer specials, using an application to send out push notifications to alert them to, say, a ladies' night, for example. You're able to take that and use that to drive traffic forward to increase your sales. Several other little tidbits about mobile is there are ways that you can connect mobile applications to websites and digital online marketing. Those will help draw your customers in and be able to move forward.
Explain what you just now said. I don't quite get what you said. Connect your mobile platforms with your website for digital marketing?
Absolutely.
Explain a little bit about what you mean by that.
What you have to understand is that it's not just one thing that's going to get you there. It's a combination of several things. One being a web presence. There are a lot of customers when they go to acquire your services, they're finding you online. They're searching for you on the internet. Once they engage with you, a mobile application is actually designed specifically to retain those customers. So things like retention, giving them loyalty coupons or rewards, things like that that can be delivered through the intimacy of their smartphone. They carry it around with them at their convenience, and that is the secret sauce of today's world. The consumer wants to know what is convenient, and they want to be able to engage you on their own time frame.
Okay, so what you're saying now is this is the problem that my listener has. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so now RSM apps, say something briefly about that, and then what is it you do to help the listener in his business enterprise?
Sure, absolutely. So RSM Apps is a digital marketing agency that develops mobile applications and social media marketing. We've recognized that the consumers are very heavily vetted and invested in social media as well as mobile. We know that these are where your customers are. So what we do is we specifically work individually with you to try to find a solution to take your business, put it in front of your customers, and then keep them coming back by utilizing these mobile tools.
So do you write apps? Is that what you do?
Yes, we actually can develop code, write code specifically for what we call custom native applications and functions. We also have the ability to design and develop and implement social media marketing strategies, creation of social media pages and profiles, integrating mobile applications with social media as one congruent system.
Example of let's figure out for a second what my listener is doing in his business. Tell what that business is, and then tell how your RSM apps would solve his problem. Can you tell us what you do in a specific example?
Sure, exactly. Okay, so let's take the restaurant. Let's take the owner of the restaurant. Typically, you've got three major issues confronting one major topic. Let's say to-go orders, for example. They usually run into scenarios like such. One, they have to call in if you're really busy. The consumer gets really aggravated because they're calling 4 or 5 times. By the time that they finally get somebody on the phone, they're manually taking that order, which leaves room for a lot of discrepancies, which leads to loss by the restaurant.
Because the person taking the details is in a hurry.
Absolutely.
Under a lot of pressure.
There's 50,000 things going on around
It's
them.
Noisy in the restaurant.
Absolutely.
In the kitchen.
Yeah, they're straining to try to hear the phone, and then trying to record that order, accurately. And so what our mobile applications do is you can actually order right through the phone as the consumer. You bypass having to try to sit there on hold or trying to call 4 or 5 times to get in. You just simply open your smartphone, go to that restaurant's app, order the products that you want in a basic style shopping cart, but it's integrated for mobile. And then that's where the power of the technology takes over. You actually go in, create your order, and then it prints in the line in the kitchen.
Does the listener have to have the app from that restaurant on his phone first to do that, or
yes,
or not?
Yes, they do. They do. That is the one thing that you will need to do, is to actually download the app for that specific restaurant. What we do is we try to tailor make every application that we develop to an individual business. For one, you get a lot of the, intimacy with the customer and that business. For example, like a restaurant like Blue Orleans, where you've got a cultural based business that people love to go and experience. Those types of restaurants are very keen on having those to-go orders, online call-ins, things like that, to where they're constantly needing that solution to engage with those customers. Because if you've ever been there, you know how busy they are.
So Blue Orleans engages RSM apps to help with dealing with the customer who's maybe a new customer, but someone who at least has downloaded the app, has enough loyalty and interest in that business to download the Blue Orleans app. Well, how long does Blue Orleans need your services? What kind of engagement does your company have with a client?
Well, we actually are a full turnkey agency, which means that once we go through the concept of development and the creation, we actually stick with them from start until infinity, basically. I mean, we do not leave that customer. We work with them to try to figure out what makes them unique. We design products that are specifically geared to helping them with those unique needs. And then we stick with them through time to help them maximize ROI. And then we're always there.
What is ROI?
A return of investment.
Now, you don't write software that's rented, do you?
No, absolutely not. No, everything that we do, we actually develop specifically as a one-off for each individual customer. Whatever we develop is actually owned by the customer. The only thing that we actually retain is the proprietary use of the software coding that we are writing.
We'll talk about GPS in phones. How does that help in your work? Do your apps have, are they GPS necessary or GPS sensitive?
Absolutely, yes. GPS is an integral part of mobile applications and engagement with the users. You know, so much so that the automotive industry is basically putting that in every single automobile. It's actually the exact same concept, just put in a mobile version for your business. You can get turn-by-turn directions to that specific business, but you can also create, for example, an offer. If you want to run a special or a promotion, you can send out what's called a push notification, which if you've ever had Facebook on your phone or you're engaging with it, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. When your phone beeps or vibrates and you get that little red circle over the top corner with a number, that indicates that you've received a push notification. The nice thing about the push notification that is revolutionizing the way that businesses are conducting activities with their customers and engaging them are the push notifications actually do not go away. Once they are sent, the consumer will be able to access that information at their convenience.
How does RSM help local economy players compete against national economy players? Ryan McReynolds.
We do several different things that allow you to do this. One is we tailor make a specific strategy specifically designed for your business. National, everyone is thinking it's very difficult to compete with them because of the budgeting that you have to start with. This is actually not true anymore, thanks to mobile technology. For example, you can deploy and develop a smartphone application that is in the app stores, Android, Apple, and Windows, for around $2,000 versus the corporate giants that are spending $100,000, $150,000, $200,000 for the same type of technology. We have figured out a way to condense those costs and really streamline the process to where everyone can be engaged.
So I think the listener needs to understand that you, Ryan McReynolds, are not just an app. You're not just a technology business. You help that relationship that my listener and his business has with his customer. So that's marketing. It's not just technology. It's who those people are, how they find out what their needs are, the customer's needs, what that customer's habits are, how he can be induced to come or to come sooner rather than later.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is the biggest challenge that's actually faced with technology today is business owners that either try to do it themselves and they don't really understand, the actual economics behind what they're doing or the strategy behind what they need in order to actually get that business going. That's where we really shine, is we're a marketing company actually at heart.
Well, tell my listener about, let's say, a tavern. A tavern, describe, if you would, what a tavern owner would do who's not thinking in terms of mobile apps versus the one who, say, maybe engages RSM apps for its services.
Sure. Typically, the way that we've conducted marketing in business in the past, you would go out, you would do print advertisement, you would have flyers, you would try to go and do radio, potentially looking at trying to get your name out there to run, promotions, specials, ladies' night, things like that, to engage your audience. That is still a very viable part of business. But the consumer has moved on. They're listening to radio, they're watching TV, but they're doing it from their smartphones. So being able to put your business in an intimate setting with that customer on their phone, I know it sounds crazy, but that's the one thing that I know that people take with them to the restroom. It's the one thing I know that people take with them to bed at night. It is literally everywhere that you go. And so that is what we do, is we help business owners take their business, their product, and put it into their pockets of the customers.
This is David Tulis. We're talking with Ryan McReynolds, who's the founder and the CEO of RSM apps based here in Chattanooga. We are at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, and we're streaming live on YouTube at the Hot News Talk Radio channel. And you can find out all about us on our shows on your smartphone through the TuneIn Radio app. Just select Hot News Talk Radio, and there we are. We're suggesting that we love our neighbors and buy local, and we're seeing how smartphones and the web are very much able to help you in your local-centric thinking of your market and your economy. Though no doubt you want to have buyers from Thailand. You, my listener, are counting on the man in the next cubicle in your office to shop with you or to shop at your business. Let's talk about businesses that are not public, so public as taverns and restaurants. What about someone who's developing a product at home? How with his wife?
Sure.
How can you help a little business based in the garage?
Well, several different ways. One is going to be trying to figure out exactly what those target consumers are. The misconception is you have to have an abundance of capital in order to start something. Those of you who are starting businesses in your garage realize that there's actually maybe another avenue. You can maybe do this a little bit more affordably. The way that you do that is you engage your audience through social media and through mobile applications. Constructing a basic, simple website, something of that nature, connecting it to a mobile app for retention to keep them coming back. But the biggest name of the game is you have to figure out a way to make your services convenient for them. Not trying to catch them when you want them, trying to catch them when they have the time to engage.
Explain that. What do you mean by that?
Well, think of it almost like television. You as, an advertiser, if you're trying to advertise your product on television, you have a wide berth of a target window to try to catch that one customer. If you're looking at 10% of 1,000 people, so let's say that you're trying to target 100 people to come in as a potential lead to buy your product. You have a very specific window in which to catch them by using traditional advertising and methods. The mobile app, where that solves that unique problem, is you are not relying on their schedule to catch them. You are actually putting your product on their phone, but you're making it convenient so that they can receive your notifications, receive your alerts on their own time frame. You might send it out at 9 a.m. It might be 11:30 or 12 o'clock at night by the time that you come through and they purchase your product. But that's the power of mobile, is that it's putting it at their convenience.
Is there a danger of having phones that are overcharged with apps and just cluttered?
That is a very common problem that we have today. We are flooded with apps and inundated with new ideas that are coming from the App Store, utilities and tools that they've come out with that make our lives easier. And, businesses are competing absolutely for space on their consumer cell phones. But that's where you bridge the gap there is you have to engage with a company like mine that knows exactly what works. We know exactly how to design your business to be simple, easy to use, and accessible by the customer. Those are the three main, I would say, stars as far as a focal point of what you need for success.
And point to remember is that when Ryan McReynolds of RSM is legging it, when he's walking about, his shoe soles are on Main Street, on Broad Street, over in a parking lot in Ottawa. He's at a business in Saudi Daisy. His feet are on the ground. And that's the advantage of a local provider. Does it really matter in the digital age, Ryan McReynolds, that the people providing digital services are local, or does that really not matter?
That depends on your view. I would tell you that it does matter because we are having to, work right now. Let's say, for example, that I'm a small business owner and I decide that I want to, buy a product for somebody across the country. Are their services sound? Yes, they are very sound. The problem is, though, is that they don't understand your marketing audience. They don't understand the small business owner that purchases from you. They don't have that intimate relationship, whereas we, being local, we are 5 minutes away. We're 10 minutes away.
And you make inquiries in a way that a person in San Francisco could not.
Absolutely.
Even though he has a phone,
the
people have phone numbers and they can be called, but you being local with your feet on the ground here can make an inquiry in really a different manner.
Absolutely. I was born and raised here in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I understand the local marketplace. I've been in business myself here for over a decade. Been working in the trenches with multiple different types of verticals and industries. I understand what goes on, who the types of audience members are, what the community looks like, and what the landscape is. So I understand, the eclectic challenges that we are faced as a community when we're trying to launch a small business in Chattanooga.
How can my listener, Ryan McReynolds of RSM Apps, contact you?
We have a website. It's rsmapps.com. You can also call us at 423-280-1813.
Ryan, thanks so much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Ryan McReynolds is your man, very possibly, to get your business with an app and to have a more fluid, more facile, more friendly connection with your customers by his smartphone. This is David Tulis. We're suggesting loving your neighbor and buying local. Make sure if you need to start a business, you do need to start a business, but if you want to buy into somebody else's, go to Bruce Krebs, who runs Entrepreneur Source. Bruce's number, call now, is 875-5621. That's 875-5621.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Expect a wet start to your Thursday with a few early morning showers, then drier for the afternoon. Not as warm, highs upper 50s. Tonight, lows getting colder into the lower 30s. For Friday, a breezy, chilly day, even with sunshine, highs only upper 40s with more sunny and cool weather for the weekend. Right now at Kohl's, take an extra 20% off with your Savings Pass. Plus, everyone gets $10 Kohl's cash for every $50 spent. Kohl's, some exclusions apply. See store or Kohl's.com for more. And I'm S'mores Gene 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Orr. On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240. CBS Radio News brought to you by Kubota. You can count on Kubota to help you get the toughest jobs done with ease, comfort, and efficiency. Whether you need a compact tractor, zero-turn mower, or diesel utility vehicle, let Kubota help you get your work done. Find your local Kubota dealer at TennesseeKubotaDealers.com.
At Kubota, there's only one thing we're selling. Great tractors.
Lay your burdens down at the woodhouse. Leave all your worries at the door. Just take some time. We're transforming life.
Happy holidays at the Wood. From the Woodhouse Day Spa. Holiday gift cards available at chattanooga.woodhousespas.com.
You have an event coming up for the holidays, or maybe it is your daughter's wedding, or maybe just a church or office party, then you need to select Choo Choo Barbecue. That's correct, Choo Choo Barbecue. Whether you like pork, chicken, or beef, oh yes, Choo Choo Barbecue with their savory rub flavor. Oh my goodness, it's making me hungry right now. You add in their delicious smoked aroma, and you have set the table for a perfect meal with Choo Choo Barbecue. That's right, Choo Choo Barbecue. Why don't you give them a call right now? 423-843-9554. That's 843-9554. Call 423-843-9554. Choo Choo Barbecue. You know where it's located, off of Hickson Pike, right there at the Valley Brook area. Don't kid yourself. Your stomach is already on the way.
While politicians debate climate change and taking our guns, they leave America vulnerable to disaster. You need to act now to keep your family safe and prepared. Do you have an emergency plan? Do you have long-term storage food? Do you have the skills and mindset to survive a disaster? If not, what are you waiting for? Call P5 Preparedness right now, 423-602-2175. Do you honestly think the government is going to help you? If you do, you are wrong, dead wrong. Don't get caught unprepared. Let the experts at P5 Preparedness get you ready for any emergency or disaster situation. Today, we offer a wide range of classes for the beginner on how to prepare, as well as the expert prepper. We stock a wide range of supplies, including long-term storage food, water filtration, outdoor gear, tactical gear, and plate carriers. P5 Preparedness, East Brainerd Road between I-75 and Gun Barrel Road. You will see the Army Deuce and a Half truck, 423-602-2175, 1309 Panorama Drive, Chattanooga. P5Preparedness.com.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Fox News Radio, I'm Lillian Wu. Some more school kids this week getting a day off because of terror threats.
Danville and Plainfield, Indiana, both west of Indianapolis, have shut their schools due to threats received. Officials in Houston and Dallas and here in Miami and Fort Lauderdale are increasing security on campuses after receiving threats last night.
Fox Radio's Evan Brown. 1 year after the decision to normalize relations, the U.S. and Cuba have agreed to restore scheduled commercial airline service between the two countries. And gunshots on an interstate by a man firing randomly from his pickup truck, leaving 2 people dead in western Oklahoma.
A man and woman killed in the shooting spree and later police pursuit that covered 4 counties. Custer County Sheriff Bruce Peoples calls it
random acts of violence and road rage.
The unidentified suspect, who is apparently drunk, now awaits multiple other charges.
Fox Radio's Justin Alto.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240. Live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's Nooganomics with David Tulis.
I have taken an interest in a man who is a devout Christian living in Lawrence County, Tennessee, which is south of Nashville and along the Alabama border. He's a man who sings at events. He sings at the nursing homes on the Lord's Day and worships as a bachelor, worships with other people, no family to take along to church. And he, for a living, fixes parking lots from churches. He has made a point of entering a field of business that is not even pretendedly subject to government claims of licensure of what he does and who he is. And that is working in the private sector with churches and individuals. He does not do commercial work, so he can stay out of the stream of so-called official commerce. And his name is Jay Hirsch. And I filed a story today at Nooganomics.com, the website for the man who matters, about his predicament. And the predicament is a personal story, but it is also a story about you, my listener, and how it is you have been deprived of something really essential, though you and most people would think that there's no issue here. There's no really matter of interest here, because what you're talking about is arcane and technical, and it does have a bit of legal jargon in it. But fundamentally, you are, my listener, free to travel about. You are free to relocate. You are a man under the Constitution who has a property right that inheres in movement, right? The movement of your person, whether you're going to a business meeting, you're going to court some young woman or some middle-aged woman who's a divorcee, or you're courting her because you're a widower, let's say, or for business, or for, say, going to church, or to a tennis match at the club. All of these are means of travel, and you have a property right in being able to do that, just as you have a property right to marry, right? And when you marry, you have a property right in your wife, though she is not chattel. You have property rights in her, and she also in you. And these are part of the covenant bond, the marital bond, which are in their legal description. That's why I put it that way. It sounds kind of strange, I know, but it is true. You have a right to consort, for example. Yeah, that means make love to your wife, right? You have a right to make love to your wife, and that is a right that, if taken from you illicitly, is a tort, right? It's a wrong, and so you have a cause of action, right? You can assail someone who has taken this right of consort from you and demand compensation. So property rights, there are all kinds of property rights. There are probably more rights than you could write in a spiral notebook, right? with narrow lines. You would fill that whole thing up and still not get to the end of all the rights that you have. These are called unenumerated rights. And Jay Hirsch says boldly that you, my listener, and that he have a right to travel by the conveyance of your choice, and that is obviously that's the vehicle with the engine in it, right? The gasoline or diesel fueled engine. These are called motor vehicles by the deputy, and they are in commerce, generally speaking. But there is a way of using them apart from commerce, and that is under the Constitution. And Jay Hirsch, this man who repairs church parking lots, who brings restoration to potholes at the Baptist church, he believes that there is this right to travel by the conveyance of his choice. And so he was waylaid not long ago in Lawrence County by a deputy, and in his red truck, it's a 4-door red truck with a flatbed back, upon which he hauls all of his gear in his I think I would describe it as a subsistence living. It's a subsistence living because he is living out of his principles and does not have dependents. That means that he is, like St. Paul, freer to act on account of his convictions and his liberties than other men who are bent toward servitude because of their obligations to wife and children. So this is kind of, you could call that economic pressure. So Jay Hirsch is facing trial Tuesday. And just by the way, I'm planning, if the case is not continued or delayed, I'm planning on going to his trial as a reporter. And if you, my listener, are interested in going with me, then you need to contact me through Nooganomics.com. That's Nooganomics.com. I don't expect you will, but there might be one or two people whom have contact with me or who follow what my work as journalist who would think I'm going there to support this man. And as a Christian, he says, I have rights endowed by my Creator. They are unalienable, and I am not going to alienate them by anything that I do by way of petition or request or application. By that, I'm referring to the driver's license application form, in which you enter into a non-constitutional realm of existence and law. That realm is called administrative law, and everything that happens within that sphere is at equity. Now, that you say, what are you talking about? Well, what that means is that by contract, you are bound, okay? You're bound by application, payment, and contract to receive a benefit. What's the benefit? Well, you get a driver's license. And so most people think they have to have one to drive, but they also think of it as a benefit, not just a necessity, but a benefit which you've paid for. So you are bound by all the rules of the road, and you are bound to the machinery of state, which gives the state access to your person and your movements through tags and driver's licenses. The form of statute, though, that ostensibly requires you, my listener, or your son, right, your 16-year-old son or 17-year-old son to get a driver's license is not, in fact, compulsory. And I have written about that at Nooganomics.com. So the proof is there. You just have to read my work. It's at Nooganomics.com. And the category, I think it's police. It's something to do with police. If you look and if you click that category, you'll find several stories. And if you look at today's story, I have at the bottom a list of other essays that touch on the question at hand, and that is: are you free to travel by a car, or are you only licensed by privilege to operate a motor vehicle in commerce? So you see, those are the two categories. One, where you are, is operating a motor vehicle by privilege in commerce. Okay, that's where everybody is who has a driver's license. Or are you in another category, and do you have a different status? And that's that distinct legal status is using a car on the public road and public right-of-way under the Constitution via or through the right of travel. Okay, so those are the two categories of people. Most everybody, 99% of the people, Anglos, are in the first category, and 1% or less are in the second. And among Hispanics, well, the proportions are much different there. Among Hispanics, most Hispanics are free people, and they drive freely without insurance, without driver's licenses. And many of them are let alone. Others are harassed, and they're charged with failure to exhibit and other provisions of the statute, which are, by the plain language of the law, by my analysis, misapplied to them. And so the argument that that Jay Hirsch is making is that he has God-given unalienable rights, and he's not going to give them up in exchange for state benefits, and to therefore be subject to state-licensed, state-granted taxable privileges and statutes requiring licenses and permits. He's not going to do that, he says. Why? Well, because he's told by St. Paul not to to be a free man as he is able, and that's what every Christian man seeks to do. Many blacks in the South, when they were converted, they bought their freedom. They bought their freedom by paying the $500 slave price to the master, becoming free men. Do you know that there were thousands and thousands of free blacks in the South? Many fewer in the North, which was whose people were always hostile to blacks. But in the South, where blacks were part of the culture, there were thousands, and probably about 12 to 15% of blacks in the South before the war were free. And they had become Christians, right? They become Christians, and they bought themselves, and many of them were very rich. And some of them lent money to their former masters when the plantation's crop did badly and the payments were short because the sale at New Orleans didn't quite bring enough. Well, to tide the white man over, the black man lent him some silver. And that was not remarkable in those days. So how is it that we're free? Well, we're free when we buy ourselves freedom, or we decline to enter the administrative law realm by application and then become subject to equity. Again, equity simply means that you've bound yourself by a contract. That's all that means, right? There's a contractual relationship. You agree to do A, B, and C, and the other party agrees to do X, Y, and Z. And there's equity, right? There's an equitable relationship, a fair relationship, and it's enforceable. It's legally enforceable. Most traffic cases pretend that the free driver is subject to these laws and rules, especially those for having the proof of the contract, which is the driver's license. And so free drivers, the Hispanic immigrant, right? The free man from Guatemala, the Honduran laborer with his wife and 7 children, they are viewed as enemies. And so they're sometimes charged by police who think that they cannot be free users of the road. They just say it's just not possible. You have to have a driver's license. And if you formerly were licensee, they'll say, well, you're driving on an expired, right? Which is a legal fiction. What's happening in this case in Lawrenceburg, I like to suggest to you, is that it has potential. It has monumental potential. You have a dedicated, religiously oriented defendant, and if proper argument is made, he can overturn the entire system. He can bring a rebuke from the third branch of government upon the first, the third being the judicial branch, the first being the executive. All police actions are under the executive power, whether in your state, whether your county, or your city. And police departments universally in our state harass free users of the road who often make bad arguments and who often don't really make any arguments at all, but some of whom, including this man, in Lawrenceburg, Tennessee, Middle Tennessee, are making cases that I think threaten this executive harassment of drivers, especially Hispanics. Now, you, my listener, I want you to pay attention to the idea of the Hispanic. If we are going to be a Christian nation or a Christian people, we need to make sure that immigrants and strangers here who are come here to work with their children and their wives often are waiting for them to come. We need to make sure that they're not illicitly harassed by sheriff's departments and police departments for not having driver's licenses. And we also need to defend people who are like them in status. That is to say, people such as Jay Hirsch. I know several here in Chattanooga, men who, by conviction of constitutional right, refuse to apply for a driver's license. And they are deserving of legal protection, not harassment. So a case, if this case goes on up, which I'm sure Jay Hirsch faces defeat, he faces conviction by the circuit court jury on Tuesday, then grounds will be laid, if properly argued, that the system, the entire system, is a form of abuse of the public. And you say, well, David, didn't the state destroy the right to travel when it created the driver's license regime in 1937? The answer is no. Of course not. The legislature would never have dreamed of abusing any constitutional right that existed in 1936, and everybody drove without a license. No one was required to get a license then. No one was required to go into commerce or to pretend and to admit that he had gone into commerce to drive his car, to use his road, use the public road with his vehicle. No. But what's happened over the years is that everybody has come to believe that they're in commerce effectively and that they cannot use the public road without this license. And Jay Hirsch, 65 years old, who plays music, not married, and who has written very good legal motions, is going to challenge this whole system. And what'll happen if the state realizes, hey, this man is not going to give in, and he's assailing our privilege of harassment, they're going to just drop the case. And that's of course what we want. We want it to be dropped. But if not, if God ordains that this man go further than I possibly could have gone to challenge evils within the state system, he will lose, and and then the high court will be able to address the question properly. And I dare say there's probably just one lawyer in Tennessee who understands this issue. And guess what? In God's providence, this lawyer, his name is Stan Pertowski, lives in the same town that the defendant, Jay Hirsch, lives in. And that is in Lawrence County, Tennessee. And this is a coincidence by God's design. And I'd say it's provident. And Stan Pertowski says he doesn't know that he can help this man who's too poor to hire him, right? There's a problem of payment, and there's a problem of lateness. And Stan will try to get the case continued, though the judge in the case, who's heard already denied one petition for continuance, may reject him as well and say, we're going to trial with this period. Well, okay. Then as Mr. Hirsch says, I'll be swimming there with the sharks. And that is a certain prospect. Not certain, but it is a real prospect, I should say. Well, my name is David Tulis, and I do thank you for paying attention to this. I know it sounds a little obscure, but constitutional rights are being exercised, and a man is being charged for exercising them. Okay, he's being accused as a criminal and faces jail on driving on a suspended license and having a weapon in his car. He's being charged with carrying a weapon with the intent to go armed. Though the statute that is based on has since been overturned by the legislature, but even so, the old statute was unconstitutionally vague, and that's the argument that he needs to make. That the idea of carrying is very specific. The gun was not on his person at all, and yet he's being charged with carrying a weapon with the intent to go armed. He had a gun in his car, but the Tennessee law is just a mess. It's just a mess if you believe John Harris of the Tennessee Firearms Association. And I do, by the way, I do recommend that you become a member of that. I looked into that onto that page this morning. It's the Tennessee Firearms Association, and you can, for $35, be an individual member. TFA has pushed for constitutional carry and other basic Second Amendment reforms in 2015. The same old establishment Republicans who promised things like constitutional carry started stonewalling, he says, and blocked the free exercise of your rights when it came time to vote. This is John Harris saying, he says, TFA caught two Republican committee chairs, both part of leadership, voting no on gun bills to kill those bills, and then changing their official voting records to Obama-style present but not voting. These are Republicans, okay? So that the voters would not know how they really voted. Indeed, he says, Representative Jim Coley, Republican, told a news reporter that he changed how his vote was recorded because he didn't want his constituents to draw the conclusion that he's, quote, not in favor of firearms, unquote. Just more dirty tricks and shenanigans from people who should not be public stewards. So that is from the Tennessee Firearms Association. I do suggest you join and defend your Second Amendment rights. It's only $35, and you can just Google Tennessee Firearms Association. There's a page called Join Now to join the fight for your rights. Now, Jay Hirsch is being charged with carrying a weapon under the old statute, so that I think by itself has a year prison term. And he's a man not having family who, if he had to go to prison, would probably lose all of his assets to theft. truck equipment and all kinds of things that he has that are part of his business. So I've been asking for prayer for this man. I know you, my listener, are not a practicing Christian, or I suspect you're not, and you might hear that with a very dull ear, but that is something that I'm your host here, David Tulis, and I am asking for that for this man, and his name is Jay Hirsch, Hirsch, and I'm asking people who are Christians to pray for him, because he needs to have due process of his rights, and he needs to have the assistance of counsel. One problem that he's faced in this past week is that his attorney, who is an assigned court-appointed attorney, because of he's legally a pauper, cannot afford counsel, has been out of town and will not be able to meet with the defendant until the day of the trial. That is no way to be defended. I mean, even though Jay Hirsch is asking for only for elbow counsel and not representation, he cannot defend himself properly, and he cannot have his due process rights respected by the courts if that happens. So there's an effort to dump this attorney and replace him, or to fire this attorney and to replace him, or to have private counsel, which has to be paid for. Stan Perchowski, the attorney who's defending this godly man, expects at least a $5,500 retainer fee. And so that's something that this poor businessman who doesn't have great assets but has a great deal of legal knowledge and legal talent and Christian conviction needs. He needs help raising that money. And I just want to mention that to you. If you think you'd like to help him, contact me. My name is David Tulis, and you can find me and reach me through Nooganomics.com. That's Nooganomics.com. Or you can call me here at the station. I'm here kind of early morning until about 1 o'clock or so. And the station number is 800-8949. That's 800-8949. And that is, of course, the studio number, the cubicle number, where I am in our glassed off cubicle, where you, my listener, and I get together to discuss how we can maintain local economy and the free market. Wanted to mention just as I'm thinking about it, Trade Bank of Chattanooga. Trade Bank is a kind of a bartering association, and we are members, and we barter to improve our cash flow. We buy things with Trade Bank dollars, often at the wholesale rate. Learn more about Trade Bank of Chattanooga and what it offers for you. And the number is 877-2202, 877-2202. If you have cell phone problems, make sure, since we've been talking about smart devices, make sure that you have in the back of your mind the name Cell Surgeon. Cell Surgeon is the place to go. And please make sure that you say to Adam Disbrow or Anthony that you heard about Cell Surgeon from Hot News Talk Radio. Say Hot News Talk Radio. That's the name of our station. I know people don't care about station names. I know. But that is who we are. And my name is David Tulis. If you can remember that might be a little bit more difficult to remember. But Hot News Talk Radio. Tell the man who's going to fix your smartphone in a jiffy that's where you heard about us. Cell Surgeon, you know where it is. It's right next to Old Chicago's Pizza, Northgate Mall. Right next to North Chicago Pizza at Northgate Mall. 668-0100, 668-0100. So go to Nooganomics.com to find out more about Jay Hirsch and this very unusual and remarkable area of liberty that he is defending, though no one cares about it. No one wants it. Hardly anybody exercises it. And yet he, on Christian principle, is saying, I will not give in on this point. I'm not giving in a God-given, unalienable right to travel. And I want to use my truck. And he's being challenged on that point. And so he needs money. And more importantly, he needs the prayer of God's people. Now, I know you, my listener, think that that's a little bit strange to say that to you, but I am saying that to you. And so even if you're just sympathetic on constitutional grounds, think about following his story. My name is David Tulis. I am covering Jay Hirsch. I'm hoping to go there next week for the trial. It's set for December 22nd, Tuesday. I'll be going as journalist and editor, and we'll be reporting on that event. I'll probably miss my show, but that's okay. We'll do something else if you're here. But do think about this matter and have a Christian friend who knows God to bring this man to prayer who's being godlessly oppressed. He's being godlessly damaged by this action, and he needs to be left alone. That's what we want here in the South, to be left alone from the good people in Washington. And that's what you want here, my listener, in local economy, the free market. You want to have a free market. And so we want to continue our theory and our theme, loving your neighbor and buying local. This is David Tulis. We're online. We're on YouTube at the Hot News Talk radio stream. And I thank you for giving me just a couple minutes of your time. I'm very grateful. Thank you.
Expect a wet start to your Thursday with a few early morning showers, then drier for the afternoon. Not as warm, highs up